This week, Tesla released version 14 of FSD to at least a handful of early release candidates who give us some great footage showing us what it can do. It is expected to continue rolling out wider throughout the week and weeks ahead. But what does it mean for investors? What does it mean for the stock, for the company, for those of us who have a few bucks in our retirement squirreled away in this stock we call Tesla? Well, that's what we're going to talk about. Me and Larry. Larry Goldberg is here joining us, and let's find out what we're missing. I'm Brian. Welcome to Futuraza.
Great Larry, to be here, Brian.
Thank you for being back. I do appreciate you so much. We've met a handful of times in real life, I guess maybe 2 or 3 times, but It's always fun and great to see you when we get that chance. So thank you for that. So FSD 14 came out. You've watched some footage. What's your takeaway?
I like it.
I like it. I like
it very much. I love to get my hands on it. I don't have it yet.
So which features that we've seen this week have you most excited? For me, it's specifying where to end the ride, because that to me is critical for robotaxi, but it's also just important for those of us who like to play the game of, can I get all the way from door to door without once taking control?
Yeah, being able to tell it to drive into your driveway is very important. Very important. I really struggle with that, and getting it to park in my garage. That would be really nice. And to exit the garage, although FSD 13 is doing pretty good at exiting my garage in one of my garages, but in another one, not too good, because it's really tight and very complicated. Love to see that improve. I'd love to see the termination of the ride in the parking lot. You know, the very first time I tried version 12, it took me to a charger and backed up into the charger perfectly. I get that now maybe 1 in 3, 1 in 4 times, but that's the piece that would really seal the deal. And then, of course, my biggest bugbear is get Cybertruck up to the standard of the other vehicles.
I agree with that. I've had once only where I put in my destination, it drove into the parking lot and then backed me into a spot. Couldn't believe it. Haven't seen it again since. But this is great. You can specify front door, park on the street, you know, whatever it is that you may need for that particular location. Having seen this, what does that do to your confidence that we are approaching completion?
You know, reading between the lines of what Elon is saying, he's really talking about version 14.2 or 3 reaching that point. I think this version is a very, very, very significant upgrade. Very significant. And it has been the result of some incredibly important architectural changes in the product. I judge that by the amount of time it's taken. It's almost a year to get this version to work. I judge that from what I read, what Elon is saying, what some of the others are saying. I think that we need 2 or 3 releases of this to get there, but I'm fairly confident that it's going to be somewhere in the 26, mid-year range. I'm feeling pretty good about it.
Mm-hmm. As an investor, what does this do to the stock? Not 14.1, but 14.2, 14.3. What happens when this works, when this is unsupervised?
A lot. I mean, I can't.
It's a different product at that point.
Yeah, it is very unusual for Wall Street to mark up a stock based upon the product promise of the product designer. But it's already happening because Elon has got such a strong track record. Everybody knows that he can't do it on his time scale, but that he can do it. And he hasn't got a perfect record, because if he were if he had a perfect record, he wouldn't be human.
Hmm.
So he hasn't got a perfect track record, but he's got an incredible track record as a human in terms of delivering the product that he forecast. And this product looks like it's getting dialed in. It feels like it's getting dialed in. I have a very high level of confidence, but Wall Street has got a tentative level of confidence. They're probably 6 to 9 months behind me. I mean, when I got version 12, I thought, whoa, this is a a complete level change. Version 13 was progress in that change. I'm hoping version 14 indicates that we're in the final, release cycle of true FSD. And if we get to 14.2 with that promise of 14.3 is it, I think because Wall Street have marked the stock up so significantly based upon version 13 and based upon the early robotaxi tests, I think they're going to mark the stock up. Dan Ives has set a $500 target. I think he's probably the early warning device on Wall Street. And I think we will see somewhere in the end of the first quarter of next year, mid-second quarter, somewhere in that cycle, we'll see us hit Dan Ives' target. And I never forecast stock prices, but that's his forecast. He's been the early bird. I'm prepared to live with that.
So we should tell people who are not familiar with your resume, you are a serial entrepreneur. You have founded many companies. You are a very early investor in Tesla. When did you first invest?
I think it was so I bought some stock in the eve of the late in the first session of when they went public in 2013. And I accumulated a small amount, but I became very, very aggressive in 2017. So you can say I was one of the very first retail investors. I didn't subscribe to the original offer, but I was one of the very early retail investors. But I became Tesla became easily my largest position in 2017.
You saw something in the company that others didn't. I saw it in 2019. I went in as heavy as I could in 2019. In May of 2019, for those scoring along at home, it was a very good time to do that. What did you see at the IPO that gave you confidence?
It wasn't the IPO that gave me confidence. It was Elon's early blogs on SpaceX and his blogs on his struggles at Tesla in the early years. Elon writes incredibly well. He's probably one of the best senior executive writers of all. I've read writings by everybody, top level executives. Nobody writes as well as he does. And he wrote a blog on all the failures of the first three launches of Falcon 1. And he explained what had happened, what went wrong, what they're going to do. Very similar to Tesla in those disastrous first attempts by the original management of Tesla to build the Roadster. And he wrote honestly, directly, and forthrightly about what he had to do to solve the bill of materials was coming in at double the cost, double the price of the Tesla Roadster. So they'd given a price for the Tesla Roadster, I think it was in the $100,000, $120,000. The first bill of materials, when he did his deep dive, came to over $200,000. So he had enormous amount of work to get that Roadster down to a price that they could sell it at, a point that they could sell it without going bankrupt. And they were functionally bankrupt. They were functionally their debts far exceeded their assets. But his writings were so clear and so they showed such depth of understanding of every aspect of the business that I didn't expect. The engineering, down to the physics, and I could see the intellect behind it all. So for me, it was it was a no-brainer. But I went in very small, and there's still in my portfolio those original shares. But in 2017, I went long. I went very long on Tesla and paid well.
Oh, it went up since then? I haven't looked.
Oh yeah, it went up a couple of points.
A little bit. And the thing is, with autonomy coming,
Yeah,
robotaxi coming, if you want to be skeptical of something that Tesla is doing, look at what the rest of the industry is doing. When robotics first was announced that Tesla's going to be trying this, it was laughed at and then
yeah,
copied immediately.
yeah.
If you think Tesla's a bunch of dummies, that's fine. But what about the other 150 companies doing it? Are they all dummies too? Come on. And the same is true with autonomy. If it's such an impossible, never going to happen thing, why are so many companies pushing forward and really getting close? My question on the investment side is, at what price per mile does robotaxi go from novelty to tsunami?
It's a very interesting question because everybody's got the answer wrong.
Thank you. That's what's exciting. I love having you on.
So everybody says that the average price of a ride is $4. But the reality is that the top end of the market is what's delivering all the profit. And the top end of the market gets up to the $8 mark.
Mm. Mm.
Because, where the money is made at Uber, and Lyft is not making very much and nobody else is making very much, but where the money is made at Uber, and I'm not talking about delivery, I'm just talking about the ride share, is the premier and their, the top tier, the top 3 tiers. The other stuff, it's doing okay. It's not delivering the margins. And why? Because the quality of the ride share has fallen so dramatically. If you take a ride share at their lowest rung, at the cheapest rate, frankly, you don't get a much better service than if you call a taxi.
Mm.
In terms of quality of vehicle, driver, price, whatever, you're not getting, a great deal, and Uber's not making much money.
Mm-hmm.
So this is a fact that very few people address. So if you were to take robotaxi at $1 a mile, you're getting an extraordinarily premium product, as better actually than Waymo. I've driven both quite extensively now, sufficiently to say the current version of robotaxi with the driver in it, with the support person in it, is a better quality ride than the Waymo ride. Now, Waymo had a support driver for 2 years in each of them, in their first 2 initial markets, Phoenix and San Francisco, over 2 years. Let's set that aside for the moment. But in my view, the robotaxi at $1 to $2 a mile will be the preferred product. Now, the objective is not the preferred product. The objective is to grow the market exponentially. Because at $1 a mile, with the product they've got, it's going to grow the market the TAM of the total market is going to grow very significantly. But here's the interesting fact, that at $1 a mile, Tesla's making a very, very substantial profit.
Mm.
Far in excess of the profit that Uber is making at $4 a mile.
Mm. Mm. Uber's got immutable costs.
But the point is, they're only achieving that $4 a mile because of their premium product.
Mm.
And their premium product is way above $4 a mile.
Mm.
So all I'm trying to do is stack one issue upon another in terms of the competition between a robotaxi and an Uber. Uber is only the competition as long as the TAM remains where it is. But Tesla's going to blow that TAM up. And so Uber's not even competing. So you ask me a question, I'm giving you, all the layers of the answer.
That's what I wanted. I've seen a lot of people saying, oh, it's going to be 20 cents a mile or 50 cents a mile. And I say, it doesn't have to be. Certainly not out of the gate. in the early days, at a buck a mile, I'll still use it to go to the airport because it's cheaper at that point than economy parking, and
And it's
certainly
cheaper
more
than Uber
convenient.
by far. And it's cheaper
Well,
than
I
Uber by
can't
far.
I can't take an Uber. I couldn't even tell you what the price is because there is no Uber in my city. Uh,
You're kidding.
it's no, it's I've tried looking a few times. It's just
Wow.
not here. Just can't have it. So that's and the to address that question. Well, do you really think robotaxi is coming to your little town? And I say, yeah, even if it's my car. If there is no robotaxi here and I have the ability to add a car, I will add a car. Done. Solved. The markets
Yeah.
that are too small for Tesla's taste, great. I'll clean it myself. I'll put it out. Done. So that's my thinking. That's my thinking on that.
I think you're right. And but if you look at the macro picture,
Mm-hmm.
the macro picture is that the current rideshare companies don't count because it's not the business that Tesla is in for all the reasons that I've just pointed out. Tesla is in a whole different business. Tesla's not replacing Uber rides and rideshare. Tesla's replacing the automobile, the individual owned automobile.
I ran a poll on X asking, at what price would you get rid of your vehicle? And I said $2 a mile, buck a mile, 50 cents, not at any price. And not at any price won handily, over 50% of the vote, even among my followers who are already on board with this. But the people saying, if you were to capture just the percentage of people who said I'd do it at $2 a mile, that still represents a lot of people.
Here's the answer to that answer. Of course, they're not going to replace their car now before it really happens.
Mm-hmm.
After it really happens, talk to me again. Because nobody who was driving a horse and buggy in 2000 was going to replace the horse and buggy with a motor car
Mm-hmm.
of that time and that age. But 5 years later, you've seen the picture of Fifth Avenue with the
Of
horse
course.
and buggies and then with just the cars. In 5 years, the market went from I'm not going to replace my horse and buggy to I'm not going to have an horse and buggy.
Mm-hmm.
And that same thing is going to happen here. People cannot project. And by the way, the first car they change is not going to be their car. It's going to be the second car and the third car in the family.
Here's what I can see happening to a number of those people who say, I will never get rid of my car, is their car will go into the shop. Something's wrong. I don't know what. Put it in the shop. Well, for the next 2-3 days, I have to get around. I'm going to take the robo-taxi. It's cheap enough and easy enough. And then 2 days later, 3 days later, they get a call. It's bad news. This is going to be a $4,000 repair.
Right.
And they'll
Right.
say, oh, do I really want to do it?
Yeah.
And for some, that'll be the end of car ownership.
And
I
the
think
other thing is people who can't send their children to school in an Uber are going to be able to send them in a robotaxi because there's no driver. And so there's a whole market there in terms of children's transport. And now, daddy or mummy doesn't have to drive the child to wherever they need to go. They can just call in, a ride share.
yeah. Yeah. So, guys, what do you think? If you are an investor, what is your perspective on all of these things we've discussed? How excited are you for autonomy, for FSD, for robotaxi? Everybody else, leave a comment. What do we miss? What do we misunderstand? You got to tell us. The videos where we try to make you smarter. The comments is where we hope you can make us smarter. I'm counting on you guys. I know you can do it. Everybody else, smack thumbs, like, subscribe, do all that. Huge thanks to Larry for coming and spending his time with us, making us a little bit smarter today. Appreciate it so much. Everybody else, stay tuned, stay juicy, and I cannot wait to hear from you clever robots on the flippity flop.